environment for job seekers to network and learn best practices for the job search. We meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, and you can find the schedule of topics at ukalumni.net/job club. We have been so blessed to have a wonderful team of facilitators. From the beginning, Diana Doggett has been instrumental in helping us start Job Club, develop and grow Job Club into a nationally recognized award-winning program. Today will be Diana's last day joining us for Job Club, and I just want to express extreme gratitude for all that she has done and our extension partners to help us bring Job Club to over 10,000 people in the last 11 years. We're grateful, forever grateful to Diana. It's definitely a passion project, and she has helped so many people, and it's been a pleasure getting to work with Diana. Also, I'd like to express gratitude to Suzanne Smith, who has been instrumental as an extension partner in all the behind the scenes things that it takes to run our program. The emails you received, marketing, promotion, live stream. Suzanne has been, again, we could not have done this program without Suzanne the last many years. Today will be her last day with us as well. And Sunny Saylor, our friend over at Extension. Sunny has always set the room up for us when we met in person, made sure our technology was available, ready to go when we arrived, had coffee and waters ready, shoveled the snow if it needed to be done. Sunny, we appreciate all that you have done as well when we were meeting in person. We have moved to a virtual format. We are not meeting in person. And again, I just want to let everyone know how much we appreciate all of the efforts of Extension the last several years. Also on our Job Club facilitation team, I'm Caroline Francis, Director of Alumni Career Services at UK. I have Nicole Waite, Employment Specialist with UK STEPS Temporary Division as a partner. Amy Gamlin, Associate Director of UK Alumni Career Services. And we have other members of our team helping: Queen Sullivan, Christy Kaufman, and Lindsay Cottle, all helping us behind the scenes bring Job Club to you. So thanks, team. We would like to remind you that Job Club is currently hosted in an online format only. We'll have Zoom webinar that does feature a chat moderator, so use that chat box. We'll respond. For those that are joining us by Facebook Live, note that it's view only. There's no chat box moderator or no job lead newsletter that goes out afterwards for those that are joining us either live on Facebook or a rewatch. We also want to let you know that we do have a free Job Club resource packet with incredible articles and information that can help job seekers. You can find that on our website, and also there's a link to it in the follow-up newsletter that you'll receive today. Job leads. Employers and recruiters are always welcome at Job Club. Employers that might be joining us online today, at the end, you can have a 1-minute spotlight to share active job leads with our group. We will just raise your hand, and when the time comes, we will give you control to do that. Also, employers that are joining us, feel free to put those leads in the chat box and email them to us so that we can include those in the newsletter of leads that will go out later today. Please note that some attendees are conducting a confidential job search, so let's be respectful of their privacy. So if you happen to recognize a name in the chat box, we ask that you be respectful of people that might be conducting a confidential job search. Reminder to check out our related articles in the reminder emails, and also the recordings of the PowerPoint that you can find at ukalumni.net/job club. A big welcome to all of our first timers. If you're a first timer, please let us know in the chat box that this is your first time joining us. We always love seeing where people join us from, and it's wonderful to get first timers involved with Job Club and learning and growing. You'll receive a follow-up survey later today, first timers, to get you in our system. One of the highlights of the program is hearing success stories from people that have attended Job Club. So if you've had a success recently, share that in the chat box. We also encourage you to email us when you land jobs or have success stories. We've had one emailed in since the last Job Club. The success story I have is from Karen in Louisville. She was a Alumni Career Service career client and also attended several Job Club meetings. She's received an accounting offer and accepted a job and started this week with a healthcare system in Louisville. So a big congratulations to Karen. She said that she has applied for 32 jobs and had 14 interviews. And she ended up getting offers, multiple offers, and was thrilled with everything that she's learned through Job Club and career counseling, especially in regards to LinkedIn and how the interview process has changed. During her layoff, she did use that time to go back to school and get an advanced degree. So she had lots of things to add to her job search and to make her resume stronger. We see some things that have come through in the chat box. Lindsay, you want to share some of those success stories?
Yes. Well, first of all, we have a lot of first timers today. So, welcome everyone. And Summer has had her first interview a few weeks ago and two more calls to set up interviews in the coming weeks.
Great. Thank you all for sharing. It's really a highlight of our facilitation team when we hear from you all. So thank you for sharing your success stories. Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you now to introduce our speaker.
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. We are very excited to have our guest speaker today, Hallie Crawford. Hallie has been a certified career coach, a speaker, an author, and national career expert since 2002. Her company, Create Your Career Path, is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, and she is regularly featured in the media such as Forbes, CNN, Money Magazine, and Wall Street Journal. She has undergraduate and graduate degrees from Vanderbilt University and the University of Illinois. With over 2,000 success stories, her team of coaches and resume writers helps professionals find jobs that make them want to jump out of bed in the morning and go to work, which is awesome. We look forward to your presentation, Hallie, on the 10 transferable skills to help you change careers. Welcome.
Thank you, Amy. And I had to chuckle because Vanessa in the chat box said, looks cold where Amy is. And I've decided that I would like to have Caroline's. I'm assuming it's a virtual office. It just looks so serene and I love the white and everything. So thank you all for being here today. I love the engagement so far and am thrilled for the success stories that you all have shared. Those are awesome. So I'm excited to talk with you about transferable skills to help you change careers, because this is one of the things that I think people struggle with a lot, understandably, because for several reasons it's sometimes hard to be really objective about our experience because we're so close to it, and it's also sometimes hard to know what employers are looking for. So we're going to share 10 skills with you today, but also talk about some other things. So as Amy said, I'm a certified career coach, speaker, and author. And I've been coaching and training since 2002. Oh, good. Okay. Sorry, I had to make sure I could advance my slides properly. So I've been coaching and training since 2002. I have a lot more gray hair going on underneath here. I turned 51 this year. And the advice that we're going to give you all is advice that we give to all of our clients and webinars through our company as well. I have an undergrad degree from Vanderbilt and a graduate or master's degree from the University of Illinois. And we really try to be very down to earth about our advice. So one of the things I wanted to say right off the bat here too is please feel free to ask questions or make comments in the chat. I will read them out and answer questions along the way as we go, but I love that engagement as well. So that's awesome. So here's why we're here today. If we take a look at this next slide, career change can be really overwhelming for people, and it's understandable. Some people feel like, okay, I don't know where to start, and how do I get going? What's my first step? It's scary to make a shift, especially if we've been in one career path or industry for a really long time. So any of these fears or concerns that you may have, totally normal. And the main reason, or one of the main reasons why we're here today, obviously, is people can be unsure how to represent themselves effectively for another industry. And we're going to help show you how to get started on that process. Okay. So one of the things that I'm sure you all know already, so we'll just spend 1 second on this slide, which is basically how long employers and recruiters will scan your resume. You have to keep in mind that these transferable skills and keywords are going to be really important on your resume and on your LinkedIn, because as we all know, a lot of organizations, the majority of them, are using applicant tracking system scanners to scan resumes. And also when someone actually looks at it, they're going to be looking at it really, really quickly and then either staying with it or moving on to something else. The good news is that even though this may feel a little bit overwhelming and scary, what we always want to say is take it in baby steps. Take the advice that we're giving you today, like in baby steps, one by one. We don't expect you to suddenly make all of these changes and have this, absolutely perfect brand new resume in an hour. Like, take your time with it, implement some of the steps that we're talking about over time, and you'll see results kind of right away. Small steps that you make actually will have really big results. And the other good news, taking a look at this next slide, is you can make a change and a shift. You've got to have the right perspective about it and realize that it can take a little bit of time. What we find is when people are trying to shift into something different or new, is it does take a little bit more time, and that also networking is going to be that much more critical in your situation as well. Okay. The second thing is, as part of having the right perspective, you need to be realistic about what transition you can make. Do you need to go get additional education? Is there a certification you could obtain in order to help you make this shift? Okay. And it's not this, it's everything that we're talking about today is not going to be perfect. Okay. And make everything perfect. You've got to stay on top of the trends in the new industry that you're looking at. This is where that networking and just staying on top of things on LinkedIn, et cetera, can help you move forward. But just be realistic about your transition process and know that it'll take a little bit of time, but the more effort you put into it, the more people you speak to and reach out to and connect with, the better off you're going to be. So a couple things that we wanted to share too, and I realized that we've got a spelling error on there. It should say not perfection. Sorry about that. A couple of things that we want you to consider when you're thinking about transitioning into something else and changing careers, and this is what we find, is a lot of times when our clients come to us, they feel like they need to make a really big change in order to feel more satisfied with what they do and, more energized, challenged, etc. But after they think about this a little bit more, they realize that they can make more of a shift. And that is going to be not just more realistic for them or like a course correction. It's not only going to be a little bit more realistic for them, but it's actually going to give them a lot of what they're looking for. So some of the things we want you to consider and just think about when you're considering career transition are listed on this slide right here. So for example, could you be looking at jobs that are industry adjacent to what you're doing now or role adjacent? That are very similar to what you're doing or the same thing that you're doing now, but maybe just at a different organization or a different industry. And that's going to help you get on the right path. You could also think about your transition, looking at like vendors to your industry, something like that. We've had clients who work within an industry go into like consulting, for example, or vice versa. Or is a change within your organization something that you might want to consider? So bottom line here is, and then we'll move to the next slide, when you're thinking about a transition, keep in mind that your transition may need to be a larger one and something really different, but it may also work for you to do more of a course correction. And we want you to kind of think about all of these options. And what we tell clients is, don't be too dramatic about things, because 9 times out of 10, they find if I just make a subtle shift, that's actually going to help me a ton. Okay, let's look at our agenda. I know I've said a lot already, so let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So 10 transferable skills. We will go through those and explain what we mean by each of them. We're going to talk a little bit today about resume formatting and how to handle these transferable skills on your resume. We will have time for Q&A at the end, but please feel free, as I said earlier, that you can put any questions or comments you have in the chat, and I will stop and answer those and point those out to everyone on the webinar today. So please, we love the engagement. And we are going to do some polls as we progress today. So we'll start with this first one, and I'd love to hear from everybody out there, what do you struggle with the most? Is it identifying my transferable skills in the first place? Or is it selling yourself? Or is it all of the above? And it's okay if it's all of the above, because I've been there. I totally get that. And we'll give you a moment to complete this. These are always interesting for me too, to see how people are feeling out there. Christy, let me know when you want me to take over the screen again too, when we're at the place. Perfect. Okay, so all of the above, which I kind of expected. It's interesting to see how over time, as people are learning about these things, these numbers can change and shift a little bit. So we've got all of the above is the major one, and selling myself is the second one. Thank you all for sharing that. That's incredibly helpful. So we'll focus a little bit more today on that selling piece. And what I'm hoping that we're going to do is that we'll also, when we're talking about these different transferable skills, we're going to talk with you about like different language you can use, but please feel free to ask questions along the way too, because I can help you with that a little bit. So we'll spend just a moment on the identifying, since that's a little bit of a lower number for us today. The way that we want you to think about, or would recommend that you think about identifying your transferable skills, is to think about all of these different kind of components. And this is what I wanted to share just really briefly related to identifying what those are. I feel like all of these on the screen are fair game. Meaning, obviously, your top strengths are going to be transferable skills, but you want to think about them like in a more kind of generic way, if you will. Project management, program management is basically what you do, managing data or managing analysis or, data analysis, those types of things. And those can translate over to multiple different industries. So think about your strengths. We also would like to think about your past education. So whether it's Kentucky or outside of that, what classes have you taken? Because some of those things could be things, and we referenced this a little bit earlier, that someone who had been laid off had been taking some classes. are there classes or courses that you have either taken before that can help you highlight some transferable skills and strengths and experience, or that you might want to take? So don't discount education as part of this too, and as a way to sell yourself. We also want you to think about your past experience. So what experiences have you had that could be relevant to your next position? And by the way, those experiences don't always have to be traditional work experiences. Could they be like projects that you worked on in school? Could they be certifications, or could they be volunteer work, or something that you did as freelancing? And one of the things that we have seen our clients do and suggested to them is volunteer work, for like volunteering on a project for a few months, even if it's unpaid. For example, we had a woman do a Google Analytics project with a team of people. She was actually based in Atlanta, and the project or nonprofit organization they were helping or assisting was in California. She worked on this project for 3 months. There was a team leader. It was a volunteer project, but she actually put it on her resume because that is experience that she has now with Google Analytics. She got a testimonial from the team leader as well as the organization, and that's something that they put on her LinkedIn profile too. So past experience can be relevant here as well. And what we would argue too is that elements of your personality type are also, or could be considered, transferable skills, if you will. If you are more extroverted, for example, and happen to be, as a result, a really great relationship builder, you're able to ask really good questions of your clients to find out, what their problems and challenges are right away. Those are transferable skills as well. So think about not just your strengths, but all of these other elements in identifying what your transferable skills are, because there could be some things that you hadn't thought of yet that you could add to your docket, so to speak. The next thing we want you to consider is some of your leadership strengths, because even if you are not currently managing people and haven't managed people, you are still working with other people, and you may have been a leader in one of your teams, or just a leader in some way, shape, or form within your organization. And these are some of the top 10 leadership skills that Development Dimensions International recommends people check out that are important in today's economy. Development Dimensions is a highly regarded management consulting firm. And what we would suggest is take a look at this and rate yourself in each area, because this can be another way that you can identify some additional transferable skills that are more leadership based that you can then highlight on your resume. And by the way, some of these tabs here is language that you could use on your resume and on your LinkedIn profile. So rate yourself in each area to identify where you stand out. And we really like it when people not just do that self-evaluation, but ask other people what they see are your strengths. Because what I find is that, when we're so close to our strengths, and we just tend to assume, we discount what comes naturally to us. We tend to assume that everyone else is good at the same thing that we're good at, but that's not the case. And this is part of, or can be helpful in identifying some of your transferable skills. So ask other people too. You can tell them this coach in your job club told you to do it. The next thing we would suggest to help you identify and start to get clear about what your transferable skills are is to keep an accomplishments document. This is one of the things when people come to us, and they are like, okay, I need to get my resume updated, and they've forgotten some of the facts and stats from their previous positions. It can be really, really helpful to review and track your accomplishments in your current role. But when you get a new job, we would recommend you keep doing this too. And this would be something that, it's not a document that you would share with other people. This is just for you. But it's a great idea to have it on your desktop, where you can keep kind of a log, if you will, of testimonials that you've gotten from your boss, from clients or employees, or team members, etc. Because this is something that you can remember some of these statistics, but also you can use these in some cases in your job search, like during an interview, you can bring some of these up. What we recommend is that people actually use some testimonials on their LinkedIn profile and put a quick testimonial blurb in their experience sections of their LinkedIn profile to help those stand out. It's that really good third-party endorsement. So it's a great idea to keep this accomplishments document. and review it briefly and say, okay, now that I've got all of this in there, it could be from previous performance reviews, etc. What does this tell you? What are the themes from this? And what do these tell you about your transferable skills by identifying what those themes are? It's a great idea. I said this already a little bit earlier, but to interview other people. Where do you excel? What adjectives come to their mind when they think of you? Because that can be really good, a good way to understand and identify what your brand is. And ask them as well, what skills could you use elsewhere? Because a lot of times having, a friend or family member, former coworker, whatever, give you that objective perspective and opinion can help you so much, because we're in our own head and it's sometimes hard to be objective about things. And we find that if you do like interview others, I think that's too formal of a word. You're just having a quick chat with them. It's a good idea to have a blend of people, like a blend of friends and also coworkers, etc., so that you can get some varying opinions and perspectives on what those transferable skills and strengths are. Okay. Let's dive in next to our 10 transferable skills. So we're going to go through in the next several slides some specific transferable skills that are important in today's job market and economy. And when we're thinking about these, please think about, I guess the best way to say it is, think about the ones that are not just going to be the most relevant for you as a professional, but also most relevant for the positions that you're looking for, because some are going to be more relevant than others. So for example, if you look at this slide, I personally don't have to have a lot of technical skills in what I do as a coach. Of course, we have to stay on top of things, but that's going to be, or would be, a little bit less relevant for my career path. So think about what's going to be most relevant for you, but also what makes the most sense for for each of your strengths too. And you'll kind of see what I'm talking about as we're going here. So one of the transferable skills that's really important to think about is management. But I want you to get a little bit deeper here. Is it for you and your transferable skill about managing other people? Or is it a little bit more, for example, about project or program management or operations management? So when you're thinking about management, we don't want you to be too generic and just saying, okay, it's that in general, but get more specific about what area or department are you really good at managing in terms of a prospective organization? And what types of things are you managing? In some cases for people, it's going to be, data management. So get more specific and drill down a little bit more there. And ask yourself this question: where could you use this in another industry, maybe in a different way? And what would you need to know, what would you need to learn in order to demonstrate this a little bit more, or demonstrate that you know this? And this is where we start to think about, okay, what would be my star stories, my examples of when I have exhibited and leveraged this strength or skill, and what happened as a result, okay? So with each of these transferable skills, the ones that are relevant for you, what I would recommend is that you come up with at least one star story for each of these areas, because this is going to help you articulate that a little bit more in an interview, but also help you think about how you might be able to write that down on your resume as well. The second transferable skill is technical. Now, I said just a second ago, my job is less technical. Okay, it's less, but we all have to be on top of this. So what I would argue is pretty much for every profession across the board, at least to a certain extent, you need to demonstrate that you're comfortable with technology, comfortable with learning it, using it, etc., because it's just everywhere, right? Now, you may not need to go so far as say, I'm great with AI or something like that, but some of the basics are going to be important. So think about what's going to be most important for your industry, the next job you're looking for. Is it specific, or is there specific software that you need to demonstrate knowledge of? Or is it okay to say kind of just generic? Are there apps that are going to be specific to the industry or job that you're looking at? Data, engineering, whatever is relevant for you, you want to think about, okay, what technical skills do I have? And what's going to be the most relevant for this next position? And do I need to take a quick class to brush up on something that I can then put on my resume and say, I took this course? In some cases, people will be focusing a little bit more on in their star stories and also on their resume that they're very good at picking up new technology. So they might talk on their resume, for example, Excel and learning new software, whatever it is, just to demonstrate that even if they don't have that specific experience with that technology, that they're able to go ahead and they can learn it really quickly. The other thing that I would suggest is there is so much information out there, obviously on the internet, that there's so many self-taught classes that you could probably find like a quick introduction to an app or certain software, and you can put that on your resume. So I would check that out as well. And thank you, Amy, for answering that. That would have taken me a long time to write that out. We're happy to share the slides though as well, and we can send that out as information at the end too. Let's look at these next transferable skills. So communication, again, really, really important, but kind of generic. So you want to drill down a little bit more here. For you, in terms of communication, is it marketing, PR, relationship building, team leadership? These are the types of things that we want you to think about and consider adding and incorporating to your resume, and it can help you think about and understand what some of your transferable skills are. Get even more specific here if it's possible to do so and if it's going to be relevant. So for example, if I was applying for a marketing and PR job and I had a lot of experience in healthcare, and those are the types of jobs I'd be applying for, that's another keyword I would be putting on my resume. So these are all some possible examples under communication, and we would recommend putting at least something on your resume about this and drill down and get as specific as possible. Now, if you are looking at, remember when I was talking about earlier, changing careers, and if you need to kind of, for example, if a lot of your experience is in healthcare, but you're not looking at healthcare jobs, you can then back that off a little bit and not mention the healthcare as much. So one of the things I wanted to say while we're talking about this right now is if you're applying for a different job in a different industry, you want to take out some of that industry specific language or company, kind of corporate speak that you may have in your resume. And for lack of a better way to say it, you want to genericize your resume a little bit more and take those things out. And I'll use a really quick example of tailoring resume for this for just a moment. We had a client who she worked at Coca-Cola in corporate fraud and investigation, and she was applying for 2 different jobs. One job was, and she was looking to relocate to Texas. One job though was corporate fraud and investigation. And it followed pretty much what she had been doing, but it was within a different industry. So anything related to Coca-Cola that was their lingo or related to the beverage industry, et cetera, she removed from her resume and made it a little bit more generic. And also for that particular job, though, she left everything in there about corporate fraud and investigation because that was going to be irrelevant. There was a second job that she was applying to, though, that was corporate fraud, but didn't have the investigation piece to it. It was managing the whistleblowing program for Volvo cars. And so with her resume, she removed all of the examples or the places where investigation was mentioned. And instead she put their program management. Now that was honest. She had managed the whistleblowing program at Coca-Cola. That was part of her job. But for this particular job, investigation wasn't going to be relevant. And that is something that, we advised her, you need to take that piece out because you need to think of the employer as they're very focused on exactly what they're looking for. And if you throw something in there that is not relevant, it's going to throw them off the scent a little bit, right? And they'll go look elsewhere. So you want to make sure that your content on your resume is really tailored. Okay, so sorry, that was a little bit of a side note, but important to reference. And I see we've got a couple of questions here, so I'll go ahead and answer those and then we'll start to talk about this next one. Do I recommend a 2-page resume on LinkedIn to cover more key skills to be scanned and then stick with 1-page tailored resume to submit with each application? This is a really great question. So we normally recommend for people that have been out of college for over 2 or 3 years they typically, and that's kind of a ballpark, but they typically have enough content and experience that we want them to have a 2-page resume. So most people that we see and work with have a 2-page resume. If you're more of a recent college grad, you may just have a 1-pager. So that answers kind of that part of it. And in terms of the 2-page resume on LinkedIn to cover more key skills to be scanned, I would recommend that. In your skills section at the bottom, it's going to be important to put as many skills in there as are honest and, you know, going to be reasonable for you and your candidacy, because yes, you do want to have those be scanned. I hope that answers that question. Let me know if not. Another question from Joe, thanks for asking. Can you please expound on what efficiency expertise means? Oh, thanks for asking that. So this is more for people who have experience in or expertise in making processes and systems more efficient. So typically, if we're getting really narrow with it, there's actually a whole field of efficiency in operations. But if you're wanting to say, like, I was able to make some of our programs and processes more efficient in my past jobs, then that's what I mean, is making things more efficient to the end of either the system or process is faster or more effective for your clients or the people within your organization, or maybe it's saving the organization money. So that kind of hopefully answers that. Let me know if it doesn't and you need more there. So it's efficiency for a lot of different reasons. Let's take a look at the bottom of this next slide here. And thanks for saying you understand. Awesome. So, okay, so the critical thinking. So critical thinking, again, is, you know, a little bit generic. So we want to think about, okay, what am I good at? Like we were just talking about, making things more efficient. Am I really good at strategic planning? Am I great at managing details or, you know, managing data or planning events? Whatever it is, you can put critical thinking in there. But again, you want to get more specific with it in terms of what that means for the jobs that you're applying to and what results you're able to achieve because of that strength. So kind of like what we were saying a moment ago with the efficiency expertise, did it save the company money? Was the process or system faster? And so then it kind of saved them money. It was more effective and efficient. Or honestly, did it make their clients happier because they were able to roll out or deliver the product or service more on time and under budget, for example? Okay, let's look at this next transferable skill. And this is multitasking. Again, we want to get more specific with this, and here are some examples. So it could be any of these. And just by the way, when we're talking about these transferable skills, you don't have to just pick one. It could be multiple of these. And it may be, for example, that the jobs that you're looking at, if you're like an admin assistant or an office manager, let's say for a doctor's office, a lot of what your transferable skills may need to be will be under multitasking and under technology, just for example. So when you're looking at these, it's okay if you are heavier in like one or two of these, and that, because if that's relevant for the jobs you're applying to, that's all that matters at the end of the day. Okay. So these are some examples here, like detail, but also big picture thinking, technical expertise, but I'm able to communicate with non-technical team members, et cetera, et cetera. And when you're trying to think about or consider maybe possible keywords that you want to put on your resume and LinkedIn, like websites that, like synonym.com, that can give you some synonyms to what some of these words are, and language you can use, they can really help you come up with other ways of saying things that may be a little bit more accurate for your situation. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. And hold on, let me move my slide here. Okay, sometimes it's a little, oh, I went too fast. Okay, hold on. Okay, there we go. I'm pushing the buttons too quickly. Two more transferable skills: teamwork, lots of different options here. It could be really good at team communication and bringing people together. It could be managing change within a team. It could be just working within a team or leading them. This working remotely and hybrid stuff is obviously a big deal. If you're looking at those types of jobs, you want to make sure employers know kind of upfront that you know how to do this and you can work effectively there. And if you're looking at leadership roles that are going to involve leading or managing remote teams, that's a really important piece to bring out too. Creativity can come out in a lot of different ways. It could be really narrow and specific, like literally you're working in graphic design or marketing, or it could be creative problem solving or creative thinking to a certain end. So when you're working on your resume and LinkedIn and you're looking at each of your bullet points under your experience section, I want you to ask yourself, please, who cares? Like, why does this matter? And why should the employer care? Because that's going to help you make your bullet points more results oriented. If you have numbers, that's great. But if you don't, and you know, for example, that by managing this, I'm just going to use the doctor's office again, managing this office, and you rearranged, let's say, the waiting room and the check-in process. And even if that office, let's say, didn't track exactly how many more patients the doctors were able to see, et cetera, but you know that things improved there, and you could ethically say that in an interview, you can put that on your resume and say, reorganized check-in process, resulting in increased patient load and increased revenue. At the end of the day, if you can talk about it in an interview and say, I know that this improved as a result, even if you don't have that numbers, you at least want to have your bullet points be as results oriented as possible. And you can use language like that to demonstrate that. That's just a quick example. Okay, let's look at leadership research and analytical skills. So any type of leadership strengths that you have, like we talked about with the leadership wheel. And again, get more specific here if that's going to be relevant for the job and is related to your past experience. It's a really good idea to look at the job description and see what keywords they use about leadership. So if they're talking about creative leadership, that's a keyword that you want to put in your resume. Again, as long as that's honest and you feel that's a strength for you. So look at the job description and see what they're kind of picking up on or letting you know is important related to leadership, because those are the types of things you want to focus on in your resume, obviously, too. Research is another one. Get more specific here. What type of research is it? Is it data? Is it marketing? For what purpose? Does it help you perform or others perform their jobs better? Does it help other people or you manage a process or system better? Report on something so that the CEO or whomever knows what to tell or consult on with your clients. Or are you able to provide assistance or support with strategic planning as a result of the research you perform? And analytical skills can be really, really important and critical too. And again, think about, okay, what types of analytical skills for what purpose, what are the results here, but you want to reference those as well. A lot of these are going to be important for a lot of different types of jobs, okay? So let's talk next about your resume. Those are the 10 transferable skills that we recommend people start with as a baseline for looking at what they want to incorporate on their resume. Now, before we get into this resume piece, just remember that there could be some really specific ones for your industry. And this is why we really like, and I'll just put this in the chat here, what can help you with selling your transferable skills and the language and placement and everything are these scanning websites like jobscan.co. There is another one, you guys probably know about these, but just in case, oops, I want to make sure I spelled it right. Another one is resumeworded.com. We have had clients leverage AI and ChatGPT to help them with different language and verbs, action verbs, and keywords that they want to put on their resume. The bottom line with what I just put in the chat, though, is these are 2 websites, and there are more out there that will scan your resume for you when you upload your resume with a job description that you're applying to. And what these scanning sites will do, and I apologize if you already know this and it's redundant, but what they will do is they will tell you what types of keywords you need to put into your materials and also where you might put those placement wise. Now, remember 2 things about AI and computers, right? Is when you scan these things, you also have to like think about what makes sense for you, because in some cases they may give you some suggestions for keywords that are a little bit off, or they may be suggesting that you put too many of the keywords in there. Just know that it's a computer. It's not going to be exactly perfect, but they can be incredibly helpful. And in terms of AI and ChatGPT and all of that, we've had a lot of people asking us, understandably, is it okay if I have one of those things write my materials for me? And we don't recommend that. We recommend that you start on it yourself and have it help you make some adjustments. Because what we're told from employers and recruiters, and if there are any on the call today and I'm wrong, please feel free to say, but what I've heard so far, and maybe this will change over time, is that they can kind of tell and they're not a huge fan of it. So our recommendation is that you write it yourself so that it does sound like you anyway, right? And then you can make some adjustments and get some ideas and advice from these scanning sites, but also ChatGPT, et cetera. Okay, let's talk about your resume and our second step here. Please feel free to continue to ask questions, and then we will get to Q&A at the end. I'm watching the time, and I know we need to get to that point soon. So with your resume, we want you to be thinking about three things. It obviously needs to sell you, and this goes for your LinkedIn too, by the way. It needs to sell you, but it also needs to brand you. And this is what I want to focus on today. We want your resume to make you feel confident as well, though, obviously, too. So a few things related to your resume as it specifically to transferable skills is we want you to have a summary that focuses on those transferable skills at the top. You obviously need to have your experience section, but one of the things you can do when you're trying to look at something a little bit different from what you've done in the past is you can bullet out your experience section, but have categories for your strengths. So for example, you don't just have your 5 bullets of these are my top accomplishments, but at the beginning of each bullet, you might say team leadership, and then you've got those results there. Another one may be strategic communication or whatever it is, okay? So your experience section can be categorized based on your transferable skills. And then obviously we want you to have, all of those skills sprinkled throughout, like we said. Really quickly here, resumes look fancy these days. You all probably know this, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but we like for our clients to use at least one color to help it stand out from the crowd. And you can use some shading. And in some cases, if it's relevant for your job and industry, you can use some graphics on there too. Couple of quick things that we find people tend to trip up on a little bit with their resume is making sure that you don't have tables or columns in it, because those can mess up the applicant tracking system scanners. And we also don't recommend you underline anything there as well, because it can do the same thing. And we want to be careful with those scanners and not mess them up so that you can get past them. The other thing that I'm sure you all know is when you're uploading your resume or emailing it to someone, you want to save it as a PDF first so that the formatting doesn't get messed up on the other side if they've got, for example, a different version of Word. So make sure that you do that saving as PDF. And you may want to have just a totally plain version that is solely text only if you're applying for jobs where they're asking you to copy and paste content into like a form. It's a good idea to have that just in case as well. We said this already, and I just want to piggyback on it for a moment. We do find that it can be a good idea to include quick testimonials or excerpts of testimonials from LinkedIn in your experience section on LinkedIn, because otherwise they can get a little bit buried at the bottom. And it's a good idea to use ones that reference strengths, obviously, for that specific job. With your branding on your resume, we want you to have a branded banner or header at the top. And it could look something like this, or it could just be a blue banner. And Christy, if you don't mind, if we could do our next poll here, that would be great. What we like for people to have as we're looking at this is we want you to have any degrees that would be relevant for the jobs you're looking at the end of your name. And we do like it if people have some kind of little tagline here too. And those are the main things that we want to focus on on this particular slide. And I'm assuming most people do have something like this because you've been part of the job club, but we just wanted to check really quickly. And Amy, if I could ask, I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Do we need to wrap up everything, including Q&A, at 10, or do we have a little bit after?
I think around 10 would be great.
That's what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Thank you. Okay, branded banner could be good for people to work on for today. Thanks for sharing. So again, what we want to focus on here is any degrees and a tagline here. Please make sure that you put your LinkedIn profile at the top of your banner as well, or inside of your contact information there, okay? We talked about the tagline a little bit already. This can be an excerpt or a part of your elevator speech, okay? So it should be unique selling points, what people would say about you in a good way if you left the room, and kind of what you're known for. And this is an example really quickly that I wanted to share. So when you're working on transferable skills, and if you want to highlight those in your summary or in your experience section, this is what I'm talking about here, where you can have your categories listed at the beginning, and that's going to help the reader and the scanners focus a little bit more on those transferable skills. That's the example there, okay? And our final quick poll is, we like for people to have one master version or copy of their resume that has all of their content that they don't ever send out to people. And it has all of their content listed in one place so that they can use that master version to tailor it to each position. So it helps you remember where you need to make changes, because you can put some notes in there for yourself. And it also helps you make sure that you've got all of the information that you need and you're not trying to like hunt and peck from different resumes. This is just going to help you. It's a tool to help you tailor your resume to each position a lot faster and more effectively and efficiently. Okay. So we wanted to do that, and then we'll do this last poll and then we'll get to our Q&A. Yes, okay, master copy, most people do. That's awesome. For those of you that don't, it's going to help you just be so much more efficient and effective with everything. Just FYI. And then relevant strengths and experience, we talked about these already, so I think we're good there. And employment history, so what we're talking about, and then we'll get to and move to our Q&A, is what we're talking about today. And the example that I showed you just a moment ago for transferable skills is kind of a hybrid of a chronological and a functional. And what we would recommend is not a functional resume, because employers and recruiters tend to balk at those, or they can sometimes, but have your resume be in a chronological format, but you can make it kind of functional by putting those kind of categories, if you will, underneath each of your sections. So that will help with that. All right, so let's go ahead and get to some of these questions, because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for that today. Okay, excuse me. One person is asking, classes offered at any point on utilizing LinkedIn. I'm not sure, Amy, if you all have any resources there. One of the things that I would suggest, and I find is actually helpful, is the LinkedIn blog has a lot of really good tips on how to use their tool and their site. So that's something that you could check out. Would that layout be considered columns? The example that I gave before with the blue was not columns, but one of the other ones that was on there was considered columns. That's a person who is more creative and really wants to have her resume look kind of fancier and creative. And she just uses those or that resume to send over to people for networking or for interviews. Okay, thoughts on overcoming being overqualified with transferable skills to a different industry for entry-level positions. So in some cases, people will remove some of their education. Like, so for example, we had a client once who had a PhD and she removed it from her resume because she was getting that kind of pushback on it. So some of the things you may want to do is kind of remove some of your education that may not be relevant anyway. And also in your summary and in your cover letter, you can talk about how you want to leverage your transferable skills in a different way. And if some of your experience is going to make you seem a little bit overqualified, you can leave it at the bottom and not have any of the like bullet points underneath, but just have it under additional experience so that it doesn't look like you have, you know, over 20 years of experience. It's just kind of at the bottom. In the last job club, Amy talked about creating a personal mission statement. It seems this could be helpful for the branded banner on this resume. Absolutely. So your mission statement, well, actually, let me clarify. Your mission statement could be used a little bit in your summary, but with your branded banner at the top, you want it to be a little bit more about selling yourself. So if your mission statement does talk about that and what you provide to clients, etc., then that's fine. But I would edit it just a little bit because you want it to be a little bit more sales oriented. Okay, and Amy answered the question for LinkedIn, so that's awesome. Employer who wants to share job leads. Okay, question there too. A couple more things while we're waiting for other questions to come through that I just wanted to share really briefly. We'll just go through these. So we've talked about measurable results. In your resume, you want to have 5 to 7, give or take, accomplishments that highlight things for you. On your LinkedIn, it can be a little bit less. You want to have like 4 or 5. LinkedIn is supposed to be a little bit more of a teaser. Another question that came through, 22 years of experience. Is 3 pages too long to include a comprehensive employment history? I don't think that it is. I have seen people who they have a lot of experience. As long as it's relevant, Beth, it's okay to have that. I would be careful of if you'd be worried about the overqualified or the ageism issue. But outside of that, if it's really going to be relevant and you're looking for a higher level, more senior position where all of that stuff is going to be really important, then I think it's okay. All right, any other questions that we've got? And Amy, I want to be mindful too, because I know you may have a couple things that you want to say at the end as well.
Any other questions? And hey, Hallie, if there are other tips you want to provide, you have a few minutes left as well.
Okay, cool. I wanted to be careful about it because I know like I get excited about what I do and I talk too much and I cram a lot in. So I just want to be careful about things. So as we're starting to wrap up, it will answer the rest of the questions that come through too. This is an example or 2 examples of some of the things that you could leverage or use for, like we were saying, with your how to word and talk about your transferable skills. So these are some examples here. Like we said, feel free to get the slides because I'm happy to share this. This is just about being confident and making sure that when you're networking with people, when you're going into an interview, you've got either affirmations or music playlists that help you be really confident and confident about your transferable skills. And knowing that even if going into it saying, okay, I know in the back of my mind, even if I didn't do this, you know, data analysis or event planning or whatever it is in this specific way, that it, you know, they're looking for, like, I totally know I can do it. That's the attitude that you want to go into, because that's what our clients will tell us. They'll say, I know I can do this, you know, with my eyes closed. That's what you want to say to them and go into that, the interview and, you know, when you're applying, etc., kind of with that attitude, because that's also going to help you speak to those relevant skills and experience that's going to make sense. Okay. All right, so this is, I promise, our last slide, and I'll stop talking. But thank you all for your kudos in the chat. I really appreciate it. A final thought, as I said at the very beginning, I know that there's a lot here, so please pick 1 or 2 action steps that you'll take in the next week. Like, break it down and say, this is going to make the most sense for me in my situation, and start on that, and that'll get the ball rolling. Okay. You may want to use the leadership wheel. You may just need to say, I need to update my resume because I already know what my transferable skills are. Or in your situation, you may say, I thought of another transferable skill. Okay, great. Just take 1 or 2 action steps and then it'll get a little bit easier for you, as I'm sure you all know since you're in job search mode. All right. It was such a pleasure being here. I really appreciate it. Let's see if there's any other questions before we go. All right, it looks like we're pretty good. And I do appreciate the kudos. The coaches need kudos too.
Thank you so much, Holly. This has been a wonderful presentation. You gave us a lot of great tips. I know I was taking notes, and I think a lot of people here were taking notes as well. So we appreciate the time and the great presentation here. And thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome. Good luck, everybody. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll do our closing here, and we want to close with lots of great questions, by the way, coming in too. We want to close with if there are employers here who's hiring, we want to know who's hiring. So if you're there and you want to raise your hand, we'll unmute you and you can share about some job leads that you might have for us. So if anyone's here online, looks like we have, let's see. Krista, yes.
Can you hear me, Amy?
Yes.
Hey, it's Krista Martin with Direct Employers Association. Wanted to give a shout out to the Kentucky Career Center's Kentucky Career Portal, which is powered by the National Labor Exchange to search jobs throughout the state. I'll also put the Ability site in the chat as well for searching jobs, internships, apprenticeships, employers, labor market information, and more with our 1,000+ employer members that are looking to recruit throughout the state, both in person and remotely. We also have a virtual job site, so that's only for remote employment opportunities. We have a veteran site as well to connect with your DevOps and leavers and those Jobs for Veterans State Grantees program with Kentucky Career Center as well. So if you're a veteran, military family, or spouse, to better connect with those resources. If you're an individual with a disability, the Kentucky Office of Vocational Rehabilitation will be happy to assist you in reaching your goals as well. And then, of course, our community partners that are attending can reach out to me for more free resources to improve positive employment outcomes and employer engagement with our member companies that are recruiting in the state. So,
Right. Thank you so
huge
much.
fan of Job Club, y'all. Keep coming.
Thank you, Krista. We appreciate that. All right. Others out there? Any other recruiters out? Let's see. No, I don't see any. Okay, so remember, if you do have job leads, you can email that to us by noon today at jobclub@uky.edu. So please email that to us, and we'll make sure that goes into our newsletter that's following today. Now, as a reminder, we do have extension offices in all 120 counties across Kentucky with lots of great programs out there and resources for you to explore in the program areas of such as 4-H, development, family consumer sciences, agricultural, natural resources. So a lot of different areas that you can explore here. So check those out. A lot of great programs that they offer there. We have UK Steps, temporary employment, coordinated by Nicole Waite. And Nicole, I don't know if you are on here and are available to come on and share what you have going on there.
Yeah, hello. Thanks, Amy. Okay, so yeah, we have a few jobs here that we'll highlight today. And I'll also copy and paste those so that you guys can look at them in the chat. And no worries if you're not able to copy these from the chat today, they will go out in the newsletter. And so the first highlighted position is a STEPS event EMT. We usually have events a couple of times a year, and EMTs help out with those events out at Kingland. And then we have a STEPS EMT, a fairly new program, STEPS EMT Emergency Career Program. That is a paid training program. We have a STEPS Grant and Contract Specialist for the College of Social Work. And then we have a STEPS website specialist in our Department of Neurology. And those are just 4 highlighted positions. There are more additional, I should say, positions, some admin and patient services positions that I'll have in that newsletter sent out later today also. So yeah, feel free to give me a contact me, I should say, if you have direct questions about the positions. You can reach me, of course, at nicole.wade@uky.edu.
All right. Thank you so much, Nicole. Yeah, check out
Thank you.
those jobs at you on UK Steps online there for to see what they have available there. Now, of course, if you would like some more one-on-one help, we at UK Alumni Career Services offer resume writing, interview tips, LinkedIn tips, job search strategies. So having an opportunity to talk with us, we'd love to be able to help you out with those one-on-one coaching services. So there is information here on the screen where you can learn more about what we do offer. So please do explore that. We'd love to help you out there. Now, our next job club will be on February 13th. That will be presented by Ryan Farley, who's an extension agent. And it's going to be about the 10 professional development books that mean business. So we're really looking forward to that presentation. And that talk again will be on February 13th, Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, same time as today. So we appreciate everyone joining today. We appreciate our wonderful speaker, Hallie, who was able to give us some wonderful ideas of how to use those transferable skills as we move forward. So thank you everyone for being here at Job Club, and we will see you next time.